At 22 years old, I thought I wasn't going to make it out alive. The lessons I learned as that fire was coming down on me has helped develop the processes and what we have built today in our property management company. If you want to build a successful BTR community and survive the operational chaos that comes with it, then follow these steps. Stay with me, because these are the systems that took me from zero to managing over $1 billion in real estate assets. So I want to bring back to when I started my firefighting career. Now, this was obviously after I'm a college dropout, essentially. Never went back to college. So right into firefighting and didn't really look back after I dropped out of college. So I want to bring a little bit of some of the principles and the processes of firefighting that has really shaped how I've been able to create operational efficiencies and systematical processes and the reasons behind them and the whys. Took a lot of that from the training and all the education that I had as a firefighter. A lot of how firefighting works is there is a system of operation, and the reason behind it in firefighting is it all comes down to life safety. So everything about firefighting is that life safety and that pivotal moment on life or death. You're facing life and death every single day that you are out there. You show up and you can be in life and death scenarios at any given time. And it's how you systematically get through that life and death scenario. Whether it be a structure fire that you're getting to, there is a systematic operation from the beginning that you get into that truck till you land on site for that fire. There's a process of laying out the hose lines to your partner behind you that backs you up. All of these things that I have taken from firefighting, and I have systematically brought it in to our current operations in our build-to-rent property management company. So when you have these life and death scenarios and you bring that into operation and business practices, you think about what type of system, what type of process do we need to put in place so that the outcome is not death, it's that life scenario where you want to make sure that the systems, the processes, the procedures, the actions end up to that success. The success of actually extinguishing that fire and saving lives is where we wanted to get to in firefighting. Now, on the business side, the systems, the processes, the procedures, the people, the backup team members that we have. Because I couldn't fight that fire without my teammate behind me. Making sure that I made that step into there and that we did it together. There's a backup. You don't go in alone. So it's the same in these build-to-rent communities. Who's our backup? Who is watching out for us as we are going through these processes and these systems and making sure that the experiences on the resident side are set up for success? Who is our backup? If someone's out sick that day, who's backing it up? We have created these systems and these processes to be able to back up that community, which ultimately backs up our investors, to make sure that that community is a success and the people in it are being listened to. We watch out for them. So the scenarios that I have learned throughout firefighting and the reason, the whys behind it, the actions behind it is the outcome. So in both build to rent properties and in firefighting, ultimately survival at the end comes down to something very simple. It's the life safety, the preparation ultimately gets you to the success that you're looking for, extinguishing the fire, creating a great experience for our resident and ultimately for our investor. So learning those things in firefighting and translating them into our property management company in these build-to-rent communities, it comes down to the best practices and preparation for those communities, just like in firefighting. What are we preparing for? What do we educate? What do we train? Because in firefighting, you're training every single day. There's not a day that we didn't train for something. We had big training in operations because training, repetition, makes it so that we can complete the task as the stress hits you. Because you get put in those situations and scenarios. It's not much different than when we have a tenant or a problem with a resident and there's a high stress situation. It's no different than in firefighting. You have a high stress situation. What did you do to train for that moment? So in build to rent communities, what are we preparing for pre-stabilization of these communities? Let's start from day one. Brand new development that we come up with. We get our first doors on site. What are we doing to prep for those? It's not like a single family unit where you can just pop up some information online and just go for it. There is multiple months of preparation and operations that goes into building these communities and preparing for the release of them. If we were not prepared for the release, knowing in advance, say, hey, in about 3 weeks, we're going to get our first door. What did we start to build prior to getting that unit online? And in these build to rent communities, it's not just a couple, not 20 or 30 doors. We're talking 200, 300 doors that are coming on in sections. And we have to prepare. Is our team ready? Have we educated them? Did we prepare them for the scenario that they're going to come up with? We're going to have a lot of vacancy hit because boom, we're going to have a lot of supply hit the market. So what are we doing? The basic roles and the basic planning and operations to be able to succeed in getting that first launch of that build to rent community. It also comes down to clear roles. Who's doing what? Why are you doing it? And who is responsible for what? So when we break this down in these new communities, who's the main manager? Who's the lead on the marketing? Who is responsible for what area and what are the deliverables? Because in order to make a successful build to rent community, you have to have a successful team. You have to educate that team. You have to train that team because we're going to have new team members. So we're going to hire for new team members. We're going to bring them on. We're going to educate them so that they learn the process from day one. Because knowing the community, knowing what we're coming up with, what we're dealing with, and the process of building that out is how you can effectively sell a new resident on this community or find things that you can fix while you onboard a new community. So systems, redundancy is very similar to firefighting, where we have a system. We have the same redundancies. It doesn't change. When we get into a situation and we train for firefighting, it's the same as when we come up to that situation on site. So when we build these build to rent communities and we go through these and we put the people in place, the systems, the operations, the people, it flows. If you do it and you train it and you execute it, it's no different from what we learned in firefighting. You train it, you practice it, and then you execute it when the time comes. It's very similar to how we've developed our build to rent operations in property management. So scaling these communities and scaling the operations to be able to effectively manage these communities as they're onboarding, these new ones, and even ones that you take over communities. It's how we continue to add those doors and add value to those investors. And we can eliminate the chaos that we get in between when we come up with these scenarios. So learning it, educating, and then following through when the time and when it matters is key for successful operations in the build to rent space. So those systems and processes brings us to how these operational pieces work and the leadership behind the scenes. So we have to have those leaders in place and those individuals within the organization that understand a new onboarding of a BTR community. How does the community run and operate based on previous experiences and previous communities? So the leadership that we put in place helps get us through from start to a finished, stabilized community. And it's no different than in firefighting. You have a chief of operations, you have a senior firefighter, and then you have those that back you up underneath. So our chief operations here is we have an operations manager that then takes and goes, okay, who are the bits and pieces that we need to put together in this specific community? And then we bring all of the support staff because it's a hub and spoke type model where we already have the accounting team. We have the leasing department. We have the maintenance department. We have all of these divisional areas that support the main community. So when we talk about the main community, we're talking about the leadership that's in place for that, our operation manager, our senior manager, and our property manager over that community. And so having that leadership and the expectations and the flow through of that leadership helps us be able to get through that property from start to finish. Now, the operational systems in place before that even happens is also very key. So the onboarding procedures, who is responsible for what, and the operations behind it. How are we going to get from a new community of 0 doors leased out to onboarding from the developer, the builder? That's a whole nother piece to this. So an example of going from an operation, a completely perfect onboarding, to one that is in shambles, all basically goes off of the leadership that you have, the operations behind it, and then how are you going to disseminate that through the process from start to finish. Now, at Max, we've had multiple scenarios where if we didn't have an operational setup prior to the release of this, it would have absolutely failed. Were able to create marketing prior to the release. We had already people trained and educated on the community of what was coming. They knew about the community. They knew about the lease. How are we selling this? What are we marketing? And who is doing what and when? So if Max didn't create or have the operational procedures and leadership, then these communities would ultimately fail from the very beginning. So it's very key. Systems, the operations that are behind it, and the people overseeing those are key to the success of a build-to-rent community. Now, the truth comes down, whether you're firefighting like I did, or you're managing thousands of BTR communities, it really takes how do you approach that situation? The life and death scenario. Have you trained for it? Have you educated onto it? Have you prepared for it? And how did you execute it? So when we talk about how Max has developed these build-to-rent communities and a successful onboarding and stabilization, it all comes down to the very simple pieces. You have a system, you have an operation behind it, which includes people and divisions to be able to successfully onboard these communities for a successful stabilization that not only helps the investor, but two, you're providing housing for those individuals that need housing. And then ultimately, a successful onboarding means that we can continue to replicate this to the next community. In short, all comes down to those operational procedures, life or death scenario. Is this build-to-rent community going to make it or not? And ultimately, we at Max have put these into a perfect scenario where we can have a successful onboarding and a follow-through to a successful stabilization of that community.